Welcome to Wealth MatriXCrossroads, where wealth meets strategy. You know, we often think about building wealth, but have you ever really stopped to think about how money actually moves around the world? Today, we're diving deep into 3 totally different economic blueprints that are shaping our planet.
It really is the biggest question in global economics, isn't it? Why do some countries just seem to take off while others struggle to get going? The answer? Well, it's a lot more complex, and frankly, more interesting than you might think. It's not just about resources.
Because the real secret is in the blueprint. Think of it as an invisible architecture, a set of rules and pathways that dictates how money is made, how it flows, and ultimately who gets to benefit from it.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll touch on the basics of what actually gets money flowing. Then, we're going to look at 3 distinct models: the established engine you see in the US and Germany, China's powerful state's strong hand, and Nigeria's quest for capital. Then, we'll wrap it all up by comparing these 3 blueprints. All right, first things first. Before we can compare countries, we have to understand the fundamental mechanics. What is it that actually makes money move?
You know, it really boils down to 3 key things. First, you've got institutions. These are the rule setters, right? The central banks, the regulators. Then you have capital. That's the fuel for the whole economic engine. The investments, the markets, and finally, infrastructure. These are the actual roads, both physical and digital, that money travels on. Every country has its own unique recipe for mixing these ingredients.
Okay, let's dive into our first model, what we're calling the established engine. This is the kind of system you see running in developed economies like the United States and Germany. The name of the game here is stability. These economies have strong and, more importantly, independent institutions. Think of the US Federal Reserve. They're set up to operate without political pressure. This creates a predictable, stable environment, which in turn gives investors the confidence to pour money into deep, reliable capital markets. It really is a well-oiled machine. And hey, this isn't just a theory. The research absolutely backs this up. This kind of organized and stable system is the result of decades of careful planning, building strong infrastructure, having clear rules, and creating institutions that people trust. And that trust, that's the secret ingredient that makes the whole engine purr.
Now let's do a complete 180 and look at a totally different blueprint: China. This is a model defined by the state's very strong guiding hand, where the lines between what's public and what's private are, well, they're intentionally blurred.
See, in China, the line between a so-called private company and a state-owned enterprise, or an SOE, gets really fuzzy. This has given rise to what researchers call the state-connected private owner, which is basically a private company that has deep, formal ties that lead right back to the government. And just look at the sheer scale of this. An analysis found that a massive 78% of China's top private companies are formally linked to the state. So this isn't some rare exception. For the major players in the economy, it's pretty much standard operating procedure.
So how does this influence actually spread? Well, it's like a chain reaction. A state-owned enterprise partners directly with a private company. That's a direct link. But then that company might go and partner with another private firm, creating an indirect link. The end result is this unique hybrid economy, strategically guided by the state's long-term national goals.
All right, let's move on to our third model, which really represents the challenges, but also the incredible potential of so many developing nations. For this, we'll use Nigeria as our case study in what we can call the quest for capital. So, the first major hurdle is funding. Just look at this chart. The average tax revenue in Africa is less than half of what it is in advanced economies. That immediately creates a huge funding gap for all the crucial projects you need to build a future. And this is made even tougher by a lack of economic diversity. Nigeria's economy, for example, is heavily reliant on oil. When oil prices drop, the whole country feels it. Compare that to the US, which has a mix of tech, healthcare, agriculture, all kinds of sectors. That diversity gives them a lot more wiggle room to handle economic shocks.
And that funding challenge? It leads directly to a massive infrastructure gap. Just look at this. Transport alone makes up nearly 3/4 of that gap. It's incredibly hard to boost trade and grow your economy if you don't have modern roads, ports, and railways.
But here's the crucial part, the massive opportunity that drives this quest for capital. The African Development Bank estimates that closing this gap could boost the continent's GDP growth by a full 2% every single year. The challenge is huge, yes, but the potential payoff is absolutely transformative.
So let's bring these 3 very different models together for a final recap. We've got the established engine, the state strong hand, and the quest for capital.
How do they really stack up when you put them side by side?
This table really just lays it all out. You've got the West, where the state's role is like a referee for private markets. Then you have China, where the state is both a director and a key shareholder. And then you have nations like Nigeria, where the state is increasingly a facilitator, trying to attract the capital needed to build everything from the ground up. Each blueprint has a completely different primary focus.
And this leaves us with a critical, forward-looking question. As the entire world grapples with massive shifts like artificial intelligence and climate change, the effectiveness of each of these models is really going to be put to the test. Which system is best equipped to adapt and thrive in the coming decades?
Thank you for joining us at Wealth MatriXCrossroads. If you found this breakdown enlightening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and please share this with anyone you know who's curious about how the global economy really truly works. We promise to continue bringing you quality, enlightening, and enduring lessons and strategies about wealth. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next one.